I'm asking that the media, and then I'm putting pressure on the media to look into this, to look into the video, and hopefully this video can be released so that the public can see the type of lies that we're dealing with coming from the police department.
10 years ago, people were laughing at us when we said that we will do it, right? It was a joke that we will bring the states to a nuclear ban negotiations. But not just that it's happening, it seems like it's a successful, and civil society is in the room. But there's, again, one tiny, tiny, tiny problem. The nuclear armed states are not there.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. The Struggle is shown on over 30 cable stations from Vermont to New York City, on the internet at thestruggle.org. Congress appears ready to strangle health care and give a big fat tax break to the very rich. So what are working people doing about this threat, particularly their unions? Well, go to the AFL-CIO website and they ask you to sign a health care petition. A petition? Go hat in hand to the minions of the billionaires and sweetly ask them to change course? I don't get it. Why aren't millions of union members out in the streets protesting as they do in other countries when their governments act like thieves? And why aren't they demanding what they want? Government health care for all, an expanded Medicare for everybody in the country. With social media and the extent of popular anger, if a call was made, 1 million could go in the streets this very weekend, just before the vote in Congress. Here's a Code Pink graphic. Give light to Gaza, not weapons to Israel. We ended last week's show talking about cuts to Gaza's electricity grid. The last Gaza power plant closed up in April after it ran out of fuel. Gaza depends on electric current from Israel, and Netanyahu and Abbas are conspiring to cut electricity 40% as a bargaining chip in their fight with Hamas. Al Jazeera had a piece that brings home the cruelty of the cut that the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli government are inflicting on Gaza. They talked about people fearing that they wouldn't be able to use their nebulizers. These are machines that deliver medicine to your lungs as you breathe through a mask. If you've ever seen a kid with asthma gasping for breath, and then see how well they are after a nebulizer treatment, you will understand how important they are, and how Abbas and Netanyahu are among the lowest of the low. This video is about the electricity problem in Gaza before the new cuts.
For the people in this room, Gaza's energy crisis is literally a matter of life and death. This is the renal dialysis ward at Shifa Hospital. Everyone here has severe kidney disease. Salam Abu Jarrad needs treatment frequently, and the dialysis machines need electricity.
This machine is life. This is my life. Dependent at this machine.
The hospital uses backup generators to keep working during power cuts, but fuel supplies are running low. There are 700 patients requiring dialysis.
And from UNRWA, drawings that illustrate Gaza's situation. America appears to be a country where black citizens with broken taillights face the death penalty. That's what happened to Philandro Castile in Minnesota. The officer involved was found innocent of any kind of crime. A video released after the trial shows the officer absolutely hysterical, shooting Castile 7 times after a few calm words were passed between the both of them. What I don't understand is the jury, how each of the 12 could have voted not guilty for all of the crimes. In Waterbury, a Connecticut Black Lives rally featuring a Waterbury father whose son was shot by police.
Thank you for coming out. Thank you for the support. Thank you for acknowledging the fact that there is a crisis in this country. Beyond that crisis in this country, there's a crisis in Connecticut that can no longer be ignored. And we all have heard stories time and time again, police misconduct and police cover-up. On March 9th, my son, our son, Rashamel Rogers, he was shot 3 times by the Waterbury Police Department. James McMahon, actually, Officer James McMahon. He shot my son 3 times. All media that reported what took place on that day, even if you Google online, they still gonna mention James McMahon and a second officer was hospitalized. There's video evidence Connecticut has. They have had this evidence for at least, again, my son was shot March 9th, so I'm gonna throw it out there, I'm gonna say at least 60 days. The state of Connecticut have had video evidence showing that the moment my son and Officer McMahon came in touch with each other, they showed exactly what James McMahon did to my son. They showed in this video my son not hitting an officer with a vehicle. This is what this video show. However, my son was charged with assaulting an officer. Not only that, they continue to tell the public he assaulted an officer. This officer, he's on paid vacation. 90 days later, paid vacation. Who's paying that vacation? Who's paying that paycheck? The people. We are. Again, he lied to the public. He said my son ran him over with a car, thus forcing him to fire. The paper said twice my son was shot. My son was shot 3 times. In the chest, 1 went through his back, in his arm. He had to have major surgery, nerve damage, and in his stomach. My son, he's gonna be fine. What I've done, I've reached out to the Waterbury Police Department, Police Chief Riddick, because in the paper, he said he's transparent. The Waterbury Police Department, they do not deal with misconduct. They're foregoing with their investigations and they're honest. Since this has happened to my son, Rashamel Rogers, I don't understand their logic or their understanding of what transparency is. They have not been honest with me. Police Chief Riddick have not said a single word to me, yet he went to the paper to challenge what I said about the police misconduct. Police Chief Riddick. I sent emails to every part of that police station requesting information, the Freedom of Information Act. I have yet to receive indication that they received my email. I'm gonna push for every individual under the sun to do the same. Let me get into this as well. In the month of May, I spoke to State Attorney Lawler. I spoke to State Attorney Lawler. I called him on telephone. In my phone conversation with him, he voluntarily told me, okay, all right. State Attorney Lawler, he clearly told me my son was in a parked car when the officer began to shoot him. He was in a parked car. My son parked the car, officer jumped out of his vehicle, he began shooting my son up. The day after my son was shot, I'm just throwing things out there, because again, a lot of things the media will not purposely share with you people. The day after my son was shot, an individual I never met in my life, I don't know this person. He saw what the media was portraying, what they were pushing. He lived on the corner of the scene. He contacted me. He sent me a lengthy message. I do not mind sharing it with every person breathing. We all can read it together after I stop speaking. I do not mind. Clearly, I'm not playing games. This individual told me my son pulled up, the officer jumped out his vehicle. He had to look as if he wanted to kill my son. Jumped out, one hand on his firearm. He's blazing. He said he started firing. in his narrative, because there's an after-the-fact incident, the video. He's recording in his yard. He's asking the question, what did this young boy do to deserve this? This cop jumped out of his car and just started flaming. He said everybody running in the house, little kids running in the house. Maybe that's protocol. Maybe if you pull up under suspicion, yes, maybe if you pull up and you're under suspicion for whatever crime the police allege you've done, according to Connecticut, this must be their new protocol. Screw a court date, screw due process. If I'm a cop, if I'm an officer of Connecticut, I could use my firearm and deal with the system according to how I see fit. And how do we know, how do they deal with that? Violence. There's so many stories of violence. Again, my son was shot. They tried to kill my son. He survived. That pissed the state of Connecticut off. I've spoken to different levels of the state. And again, they won't mention the things they've spoken to me or mentioned to me as far as my son. He didn't attempt to strike an officer. Lawler, speak this to the people. Again, you're in a phone conversation with me. I can't get that released to the public. The media, at least 8 different levels of the media have shared stories. My son tried to run over an officer. I'm asking that the media, and then I'm putting pressure on the media to look into this, to look into the video, and hopefully this video can be released so that the public can see the type of lies that we're dealing with coming from the police department, coming from Police Chief Riddick. When he say that my police chief, we're good people. We don't do these things. We don't beat people. We don't bust faces up. We don't shoot our guns at people and then lie on our reports and get paid vacations in return. This is Connecticut policing. But again, I encourage we all to continue to look into this. Do not just stop right here, because the system, the police department, the state of Connecticut, they enjoy when we get worked up and then fall back. They enjoy it. They laugh at us. I was in Bridgeport when Jason was murdered, the day after, and the police had the streets lined up. They had drones in the sky. They had snipers. They had bulletproof vests at a prayer vigil. Now again, we come, a kid was killed. We come to support a family, and both streets are blocked. And then on separate sides, there's police officers, guns out. We come in peace. They say, hey, we are the same. But again, that's not the image of peace.
Yeah, and just like Allah said, CT Core Organized Now is a statewide organization. We're building Black power, Black institutions, and Black work statewide, and we're building a movement with people of color and anybody who wants to ally to our cause. So, my name, like Allah said, is Camele Scott-Mujahid, and I'm the co-director of CT Core Organized Now. I want to make sure I got this right. I got a lot of information I want to share, so I wrote this down. With the overwhelming amount of bad news coming at us each day, and we just got some last night or yesterday, and the incessant targeting of our people by police and white supremacist violence, I'm extremely encouraged to see everybody here today. As you may know, since January of this year, at least a dozen cases of police violence have been reported across the state of Connecticut. 4 young people lost their lives as a result of police escalating nonviolent encounters, engaging in high-speed pursuits, and using lethal force against unarmed community members. That's 4 young lives ended by police violence in less than 6 months. When these incidents happen, we're always told to wait for the facts before taking action. So let's go through some facts. February 4th, New Haven activist Norm Clement, who's here, where you at, Norm? And Nate Blair were violently apprehended by Connecticut State Police, who arrived at a protest with dogs that were so riled up that they bit several officers. Nate suffered a concussion in the incident. On March 9th, here in Waterbury, as Clinton shared, his son Rashamel Rogers was shot 3 times after being stopped on suspicion of a non-violent offense. Thankfully, Rashamel survived. On March 29th, Austin Carr was shot in the face by Bridgeport police. Thankfully, he survived. On May 9th, as many of you know, Jason Negron and Julian Fife were stopped on suspicion of a non-violent offense. Julian and Jason were both shot by Officer James Boulay and left handcuffed in the street, and according to Julian, rendered no immediate aid by police. Julian survived. Jason died in the street, where his body remained for 6 hours following the incident. A video shows Jason's body in the street, handcuffed. So he was shot in the chest. They laid him down on top of his wounds, handcuffed, and let him die in the street. He was still moving in the video. So I want to talk about Connecticut General Statute 14-283, which states that police pursuits are justified only when the necessity of apprehension outweighs the danger of pursuit. We're talking about the danger to police, suspects, and bystanders. Even with this policy on the books, on January 26, 2017, Vincent Kuda Folks and his brother Sean Bowman were chased by Norwalk police and their families here today. 19-year-old Sean suffered a traumatic brain injury, and 22-year-old Kuda died as a result of the crash. Kuda, Dion Pittman, and Joseph Edward Rothenbucher, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so I apologize if I'm not. All three of these young men lost their lives in police chases in Norwalk, Waterford, and Bethel. That is just in the last 6 months. We know the facts. The fact is that police violence has ended the lives of far too many young people, particularly Black and Latinx youth in our state. We have been repeatedly told that Connecticut is somehow different, and that we've all heard we've just all heard the news of yet another acquittal of an officer in St. Paul, Minnesota, who ended the life of Philando Castile. Connecticut is not different, and we have to reckon with that truth. We are not different, but we can be different. We are all here today, I'm assuming, because we're all committed to ending this pattern of violence. I want to hear you shout if you're committed to ending this pattern of violence. I want to hear you raise your voice. All right. We're all here because we're committed to that. And we can demand common sense reforms like policies mandating the use of body cams. We can demand all civilian review boards with the power to investigate and hold police accountable for misconduct. And we can come together to redefine how we think about public safety and create a state that cares for the safety of every single one of its people. I'm talking Black people, I'm talking Latinx people, I'm talking undocumented people, Muslim people, I'm talking everybody. We can have a state where everybody feels safe.
Everybody, if you just turn, face that way, and wave at the drone camera. Wave at them real good. Wave at them real good. We are here. If we don't get it, shut it down. 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 My name is John Selders. I'm co-founder of More Monday, Connecticut. And for the last several years, we've been involved in making sure we voice our opinion that Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter in Ferguson. Black Lives Matter in Baltimore. Black Lives Matter in Cleveland. Black Lives Matter in Baton Rouge. Black Lives Matter now in Minneapolis. Black Lives Matter in Bridgeport. Black Lives Matter in Waterbury. Black Lives Matter in Hartford. Black Lives Matter in New Haven. Black Lives Matter in New London. Black Lives Matter. Come on. Black Lives Matter. What? Black Lives Matter. What? Black Lives Matter.
Before our next piece, I want to tell you about a public meeting of our parent group, the Middle East Crisis Committee. If you come, it would be a great opportunity to get involved in our many projects and the projects of an allied group promoting enduring peace. It'll be Thursday evening, July 13th at 7 p.m. in the Bethesda Lutheran Church. Park in the lot at 450 Whitney Avenue in New Haven, Connecticut. Doors open 6:30. And now from the No Nukes, No Wars, No Walls, No Warming conference on June 18th, an Israeli activist who talks about campaigns against nuclear weapons. The conference was a project of Peace and Planet. She talks about a nuclear ban treaty that a number of countries have proposed, which is being ignored by the nuclear powers.
Sharon is an Israeli human rights and peace activist. She's the founder and director of the Israeli disarmament movement. In recent years, Sharon worked as a disarmament campaigner and as the director of Greenpeace in Israel. With the Israeli disarmament movement, Sharon represents ICANN and other international disarmament organizations in Israel, and she also serves on the coordinating committee of the Abolition 2000 Global Network to eliminate nuclear weapons. Please give a warm welcome to Sharon. Thank you, Jackie. Jackie is also one of the reasons I managed to come here, because I was denied a visa to the US, but then Jackie sent them some letters that were very convincing, I guess. I'll try to make some connections. We'll start with the NPT. The NPT is a treaty that was very important for many states for many, many years, saying on one hand, no proliferation of nuclear weapons, those states allowed to continue and have nuclear weapons, but there's a commitment to disarm. And the third leg of the NPT says that they're encouraging, the big carrot is nuclear energy. Now, the NPT has stuck for many, many years in the same position. We are waiting for the nuclear armed states to say that they are willing to give a timeline to disarm, and it doesn't happen. Meanwhile, we can see what happens with nuclear energy, and yet nuclear energy is the big carrot. And in 1995, when the NPT came to kind of an end, or the end of its first period, because of the Arab states and the non-aligned movement, there was a decision made to have a nuclear-free zone, nuclear weapon-free zone in the Middle East. A great decision, but a hypocrite one. Because, and not the only hypocrite decision by the NPT, but a hypocrite decision by the NPT, because it's very nice to say that the Middle East will be nuclear-free zone when the only nuclear armed state, Israel, is not part of the NPT, and therefore the decisions of the NPT has nothing to do with Israel policies. The one good thing that happened from that is that there was a beginning of work towards a conference calling for a weapon of mass destruction free zone in the Middle East, meaning nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons and their means of delivery. Now that is a bit more progressive or better, because if we're thinking not just how to bash Israel, which is a great sport, but how to bring Israel to the table, it needs to be something that Israel also has something to gain. Meaning not just that Israel gives up its nuclear, chemical and biological arsenals, according to foreign sources, but also Israel can have something to do or something to say about any chemical or biological programs that might be in other states. So that was the decision taken in 2010, and since then everybody met together. It was very nice. They achieved nothing. They couldn't even agree on an agenda. Not the only forum in the world that couldn't achieve an agenda, but here, again, they couldn't even achieve an agenda. Meanwhile, something much better happened. Civil society managed to bring states into what we are witnessing today, a nuclear ban treaty. And that's great. That's the best thing that we could have achieved. 10 years ago, people were laughing at us when we said that we will do it, right? It was a joke that we will bring the states to a nuclear ban negotiations. But not just that it's happening, it seems like it's a successful, and civil society is in the room. But there's, again, one tiny, tiny, tiny problem. The nuclear armed states are not there. It's just a small problem. And like most problems, we will find a way to bring them, because we're civil society, right? It's up to us. It's all up to us. So let's look at the nuclear armed states, what will bring them into the table, and what is the connection between this and environment and peace. I will focus, of course, on the Middle East, but I'll explain why I'm focusing on the whole Middle East and not just on Israel. We all know that the US will not disarm without Russia, right? It has to go together. We all know that India and Pakistan will have to do it together. What will Israel need in order to bring Israel into the table? Israel not just need the rest of the world or the rest of the nuclear armed states to say yes, we're going for it. Israel needs a regional solution. Israel is a small state surrounded by Arab states, and I'm not saying it to defend Israel. We can talk later about how horrible Israel is, but right now we want something from Israel, right? We want Israel to join these talks. So for Israel we need a regional solution. This regional solution could have been the talks. However, the talks so far have been done only by state representatives. The state representative of Israel and the state representative of the Arab states. And if you'll show me a state representative with goodwill, I'll be surprised, because Israel would like to keep the monopoly right as it is. And the Arab states, they don't really care about the Israeli arsenal, but it's much nicer to be able to bash Israel and to call Israel to join the NPT and disarm with no conditions and so on, when they know that it's not going to happen. So not very responsible behavior by those who are supposed to keep us safe. So again, it's up to us, civil society. What we've done is we took all the obstacles that the state said that are there, all the reasons that they say that it's impossible, that make it impossible to come up with a regional treaty. And as civil society, we decided to write a treaty, and very comprehensive treaty, and to show the methods and the ways that this can happen. A WMD, weapons of mass destruction, free zone in the Middle East. Now we are on the second stage. Now we're going to have roundtables. The first one will be hosted by Scotland, hopefully in November. And when we bring experts from the Middle East to solve all the tiny problems that still exist with this treaty. But really tiny problems, like consensus. I said tiny, but it is solvable. We're civil society, we're flexible, and we want to achieve it, so we will find it. Now let's talk about the Middle East. What's there now? Yes, Israel with weapons of mass destruction. You have ISIS in Syria with chemical weapons. But we have something even much worse, the NPT. Because the NPT promised states that will be part of the NPT help to get nuclear reactors for energy, right? And states make believe or become to believe that having nuclear technology makes them more prestige. So at least 4 states in the Middle East now are looking or are in the first steps to build nuclear reactors in the Middle East. Now what is in the Middle East? Shortage of water, drinking water, wars, missiles, non-state actors, everything that takes nuclear energy and makes it by far more dangerous. Not to mention that the Middle East does have a very strong need for energy. Very strong need for energy. So what we propose here is something that is much safer. We proposed that not just that these states, without peace first, will start sitting and negotiating on a treaty. They can take the treaty, they can change it, they can do whatever they like. It was just one proposal, one way. But what we propose is to start already bringing experts together. And what we also offer is to start collaborations on renewable energy, peaceful energy, energy that will not kill. It's like killing the aquifer, the water underneath, right? That's what this nuclear energy will do. So what we offer is already to start with these talks and start the collaboration to build partnerships between states that already talk to each other. And what we offer is for these experts to sit together, make this much better, and we like other states and other international organizations to look at this, join us in our international meetings to make this one better, and try to offer this to your own governments. Maybe they will adopt it, because we don't think that the Middle East states will adopt it first. So it's up to us, but it's also up to you. Thank you very much.
That's our program for today. I'm Stanley Heller. Thanks for watching. See you next week on The Struggle.